He was forced to marry an alien general 33 years older. Then everything changed. The guards shoved Jace Orion to his knees. The floor of the Aurelian detention hall was black and cold, like glass left in winter. Energy cuffs bit into his wrists. The hum of the field made his fingers shake. Above him, a ceiling of pale light watched like a silent eye. He kept his face steady. He did not let them see his breath quicken. He looked forward. The hall stretched wide, lined with thin pillars and drifting sigils of law. Officials stood in a row, tall and calm, their skin reflecting the light with a soft metal sheen. Their eyes were bright and unreadable. Reconnaissance operative. Human, the center official said. His voice carried without shouting. You are charged with unauthorized entry into restricted Thal 4 orbit. With data theft. With breach of Treaty Code 761. Jace said nothing. Words would not help. His ship had died above the clouds. His stealth field had flickered once, then failed like a drowned spark. He had fallen into the net, and the net did not miss twice. The penalties, the official continued, are neuronal dissolution, swift and total, or lifelong indenture under Concordat statute. The words were clean. The meaning was not. Jace tasted metal in his mouth. He thought of the Proxima farms, of station towns painted in dust and blue light. He thought of his sister trying to fix the same water line again and again, because new pipe cost more than food. If he chose death, a treaty clause might shake. If a clause shook, ships might move. If ships moved, border worlds would feel it first. People like his sister would pay. A soft sound cut the air. Not loud, final. It was the sound of boots that did not hurry. She stepped from shadow as if the shadow was hers. White hair pulled straight. Skin like quicksilver at dusk. Uniform seams traced with narrow bands of dark. A single crest at her collar. A war architect's mark. She did not look at the officials first. She looked at Jace. The look measured and weighed. Not cruel. Not kind, exact. The officials moved a half step back. General Saris Kale, the center one said, bowing his head a little. I invoke bonded clemency, she said. The guard shifted. The hall exhaled. Jace felt the words without knowing the law. A path no one expected had just opened in the floor. The center official frowned. General. That statute is almost never. It exists, Saris said. Her tone was level. It did not need to rise. I will claim responsibility through covenant. The human will live under my house seal. He will not be executed. He will not be indentured. Jace stared at her. You're offering marriage, he said. The word felt wrong in this place. It felt like a toy in a firing line. Covenant, she said. Under Concordat law, the terms overlap. He tried to laugh, but his throat was dry. I don't know you. You know enough, Saris said. You know the other options. He looked around the chamber. Guards with steady hands. An administrator with a calm smile that did not reach his eyes. A high ceiling that ate sound. His own heartbeat like boots on a ramp. The future hung above him like a door with a lock no one could see. What would this covenant mean? He asked. He hated the thinness in his voice. You would live in my household, she said. You would not be caged. You would not be free to depart Thal 4. You would be protected by law from harm. You would be seen. You would be watched. And you? What do you gain? Her gaze did not move. That is my concern. The center official lifted a hand. Human, you will answer now. The dissolution chamber is prepared. Jace closed his eyes for one count. He saw a broken stealth craft tumbling in copper sky. He saw a girl by a cracked waterline smiling anyway. He saw border maps like old scars. He was not ready to die. He was not ready to be a tool. Between the two stood a woman with a straight spine and a voice like steady iron. Fine, he said. The word tasted like dust. I accept. The cuffs died with a quiet click. Pain rushed back into his hands, his blood returned. He rubbed his wrists and stood. Saris Kale did not offer comfort. She did not offer threat. She inclined her head by the smallest degree. From this moment, she said, you are under my protection and my rule. Jace met her eyes for the first time without flinching. She was older than him by decades, perhaps more. Thin lines at the edge of her gaze told of long nights and hard calls. Power rested on her shoulders like a coat she had worn for years. This was not a rescuer. This was a force. Come, she said, turning. We leave at once. They walked beneath the pale ceiling, past the row of officials into a corridor that smelled faintly of cold metal and rain. Doors slid open as they neared, then shut like lips behind them. Jace counted exits on instinct. He found few. At the transport bay, a sleek craft waited with its engine field already warm. Guards did not follow. No escort took their flanks. It was almost trust. Or it was confidence so deep it did not need proof. As the craft lifted, the city fell away. Towers like needles, roads like threads of white fire. Far beyond, the highlands rose in dark waves, and a strange forest shone with dim silver veins. The sky burned copper at the rim. Jace sat in silence. Saris did the same. Between them, a future neither had chosen settled like a weight. He watched the ground change. He watched the light change. He watched her hands rest, steady and ready, on her knees. He wondered what kind of cage he had just stepped into. He wondered if cages could be taught to open from the inside. The transport slid through the copper clouds, cutting silently toward the dark mountains of Thal 4. Jace Orion sat stiffly across from General Saris Kale, watching her reflection flicker in the glass. She didn't look at him once. Her hands rested on her knees, steady, unmoving, like she'd learned to live without hesitation. Outside, the city faded into nothing, towers and sky lanes swallowed by storm haze. The horizon rose into sharp ridges of black rock. Lightning rippled soundlessly through the distant sky, painting the world in brief silver flashes. The craft descended beside a cliff edge and landed with a soft hiss. Jace expected guards, staff, maybe drones. None came. Just the hum of engines cooling and the whisper of alien wind. "This is your home now," Saris said, stepping down first. Her voice carried the weight of command, not welcome. Jace followed her through the mist. The building ahead was smaller than he imagined. A structure of stone and translucent crystal, its walls glowing faintly with veins of pale light. The doorway opened as they approached, recognizing her. Inside, air flowed warm and clean. The interior was quiet, too quiet. Curved halls, silver plants that breathed light, furniture that shifted shape when touched. There were no servants, no guards, just the echo of their footsteps. "You live alone?" Jace asked finally. His voice sounded loud against the walls. "I prefer it," Saris replied. "Noise is a distraction." He tried a half-smile. "You mean people are?" Something flickered in her eyes, almost amusement, then gone. "Follow me." She led him through narrow corridors to a room that looked more human than he expected. A bed shaped for his body. Climate controls he understood. A wall screen set to Earth-standard text. Every detail was too precise. Someone had prepared this long before he'd arrived. Jace turned toward her. "You knew this would happen?" "I prepare for many things," Saris said. "Few surprise me anymore." When she left, the door stayed open. No lock, no guards outside. Just air humming faintly through hidden vents. He sat on the bed staring at his hands. Free but not. Alive but not his own. He rubbed the skin where the cuffs had burned. The marks still ached. Hours passed. Light dimmed to twilight. He found a nutrition unit in the common area and touched its panel. It produced a small glass of dark blue liquid. Bitter. Cold. The taste of surrender. He wandered. The house curved like a living thing, walls pulsing faintly with energy, rooms rearranging themselves. One chamber caught his eye. Shelves lined with strange objects. Metal relics, paper books, and, impossibly, an old Earth compass. His fingers hovered over it, but he didn't touch. Why would a war general of another world keep human things? When he turned, Saris was standing behind him. She moved without sound. "You should rest," she said. "You collect human relics," Jace said instead. "Why?" "Because they remind me that order breaks," she replied softly. "Even perfect systems rust." Then she turned and left. That night Jace couldn't sleep. The silence pressed like weight on his chest. He kept seeing the officials, the execution chamber waiting behind a wall of light. He saw Saris's eyes when she offered the covenant, measured, almost curious. Not mercy. Calculation. He had survived, but for what? To sit quietly in a house that wasn't a prison because it didn't need bars? He rose before dawn. Through the window, a valley stretched below. Forests of pale metal trees glowing faintly in the moonlight. The second sun of Thal 4 had not yet risen. Perfect time to move. He dressed in silence and slipped through the corridor. No alarms, no motion sensors, at least not that he could see. The rear door opened at his touch, warm against his palm. Too easy. Outside, cold air hit him hard. It tasted clean, almost sharp. The ground shimmered faintly like glass under frost. He moved quickly toward the forest. Then his boots sank. The soil melted beneath him, turning into thick, pulsing liquid. Each step pulled him deeper, slower. He tried to move, but the surface clung to him like glue. Reactive substrata, a calm voice said behind him. It solidifies for recognized biosigns. You are not recognized. Sarah stood on a strip of ground that held firm under her feet. She wore no armor, just a loose robe that moved with the wind. Her white hair glowed faintly in the twin moon light. Jace's breath came fast. So this was the test? You wanted to see if I'd try to run? I wanted to see when, she said. It tells me who you are. Guess you found out. She stepped closer. The soil under her feet stayed solid, shifting shape to support her. She extended a hand. Take it. Before the cold locks your muscles, he stared, then gritted his teeth and reached. Her skin was warmer than he expected, almost burning. With one pull, she dragged him free. Back inside, she led him to a central chamber where a low fire coil glowed. Sit, she ordered. You're half frozen. He obeyed, mostly because he couldn't stop shaking. She handed him a small cup of steaming liquid that smelled faintly of cinnamon and something electric. What is this? He asked. Heat, in liquid form. He drank. Warmth spread through him instantly. For the first time, he noticed how tired she looked. The shadows under her eyes, the faint tremor in her fingers when she thought he wasn't watching. Why do you live here alone? He asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Then, in a tone too soft for command, she said, Because no one trusts what wins wars anymore. Not even those who win them. Silence settled again, heavier than before. That night, Jace understood something simple and terrifying. The woman who owned his freedom was also a prisoner, one who had built her own walls high enough to hide behind. And for the first time since landing on Thal 4, he wondered if he was really the one who needed saving. The next morning came with a faint copper glow leaking through the glass walls. Jace Orion opened his eyes to silence again, the kind of silence that made his heartbeat sound like thunder. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then the scent of metal and something floral reminded him. Thal 4, the house of the woman who owned his fate. He dressed in the plain dark uniform she'd given him. No insignia, no color, just anonymity stitched into fabric. When he stepped into the corridor, Sarah's Kale was already there, standing by a projection table that showed spinning diagrams of the planet's defense lattice. She didn't turn when she said, You slept. I didn't have much choice, Jace said. The bed threatened to reconfigure if I kept moving. A small pause, almost like a ghost of laughter, but she didn't show it. The furniture adapts. You resist, he crossed his arms. That's kind of what humans do. Now she faced him. Her silver eyes caught the light like two mirrors reflecting fire. Then perhaps you'll survive here longer than I thought. She motioned for him to sit. The table shifted, displaying a soft map of the valley outside. You'll need to learn the boundaries. Beyond this perimeter, reactive soil will respond as it did last night. I've adjusted it to recognize your biosignature now. You fixed it, he said slowly. After I tried to escape? I prefer to correct inefficiency, not punish it. Her tone was so even that he almost missed the faint humor underneath. Almost. What do you expect me to do here? He asked. Be your pet human? Study material? Cirrus deactivated the map. A partner in information. You understand asymmetry. Improvisation, I require those skills. He frowned. You're asking me to train you? Exchange, she corrected. You teach me the unpredictable logic of your species. I teach you how not to die on this world. It sounded like a bargain with invisible chains. Why me, he asked. There are better teachers on Earth. Her gaze sharpened. Because the others are filtered. You are raw, honest. You survived a crash, a tribunal, and your own arrogance. I need that kind of data. He studied her in silence. And what do I get out of it? Freedom of movement. Access to my archives. Food safety and knowledge, he smirked. Still sounds like a fancy cage. Then fill it with meaning, she said simply. The words hung between them. Later, in the main hall, she activated a holographic field. Floating symbols. Rotating star paths. Data clusters shaped like spirals of light. Lesson 1, she said. Understand where you stand. The projection zoomed out to reveal the Concordat's territory, hundreds of systems woven together in a lattice of bright blue threads. "We are order," she said. "Humans are not." He stepped closer, the light washing over his face. "We are chaos that survives order." She studied him carefully as if committing every word to memory. "Explain that." Jace motioned toward the hologram. "Your systems depend on prediction, efficiency. Every ship moves like it's part of the same thought. But when that thought meets something illogical, it freezes." She arched a brow. "And humans are the illogic that wins?" "Sometimes," he said. "Because when everything breaks, we make something out of the pieces. You try to avoid failure. We use it." For the first time, Saris looked thoughtful, almost unsettled. They spent hours exchanging ideas. She showed him the living architecture of Thal 4, how the planet itself adjusted to defense needs, while he explained how small Earth fleets used decoy drones and empty cargo pods to mislead blockades. She asked precise questions. He gave messy answers. She recorded everything. When the lesson ended, she handed him a data slate. "You'll record what you remember of your missions. Patterns, not secrets. I want to know how humans choose when logic offers no answer." He took the slate, hesitated. "And what about you? Why choose me at all?" Her eyes lifted to his, and for a moment the perfect control slipped. "Because you're not the first Orion I've met." The room froze around him. "What?" She pressed her hand to a section of the wall. A hidden compartment slid open, dim light spilling over shelves of objects. Among them, a metal disc, old, tarnished, engraved with tiny earth lettering. Jace's throat tightened. He stepped closer. "That's a chronometer," she finished quietly. "Given to me by a man named Captain Elias Orion 30 years ago." His heart stopped. "My grandfather." "I know," she said. "He crashed near this system. Concordat patrols found him. I was in command. I should have executed him by law." "But you didn't," Jace whispered. "No. He taught me something about your kind, about courage and mercy. When he left, he gave me this." Her fingers brushed the old metal gently. He said, "If you ever meet another Orion, remind him that survival is not the same as surrender." Jace's breath came unsteady. "You saved him." "I owed him my life," she said simply. "He convinced me not to destroy a colony I was ordered to burn. Because of him, thousands lived." The chronometer ticked faintly, still alive after decades. The sound filled the quiet room like a heartbeat. "So you saved me?" Jace said softly. "To pay a debt?" Saris looked at him then, really looked. "Debts end. Choices begin. What I did for him was obligation. What I do for you, I haven't decided yet." He met her gaze. No words came. For the first time, he saw the war hero not as a weapon of the Concordat, but as a person built from ghosts and impossible loyalties. Outside, the copper light of Thal 4 faded into indigo. 2 moons rose, painting her silver skin with soft shadows. In that moment, Jace Orion realized something he had not wanted to admit. He was not living in the house of his captor. He was standing inside the echo of his own family's past. The next morning, the light over Thal 4 bled soft gold across the highlands. Jace woke to the sound of faint chimes pulsing through the corridors. The walls themselves seemed to breathe in rhythm, reacting to the morning air. He had begun to notice things now. The way every corner of Saris Kale's house moved like a living organism. Half architecture, half heartbeat. He found her in the courtyard, standing beneath a thin column of light that shimmered down from the open roof. She was dressed differently. No uniform today, but a dark silver tunic that flowed like liquid metal. She looked less like a general and more like someone waiting for a storm. "You're awake," she said, not turning. "I try to make that a daily habit," he answered, his tone dry. She faced him then, and he saw something he hadn't before, a trace of tension in her eyes. "The lunar convergence begins tonight. Attendance is required." "Convergence?" he repeated. "You mean a festival?" "A ceremony," she corrected quickly. "It marks the alignment of our 3 moons. The Concordat regards it as a symbol of unity. All citizens of rank must attend with their bonded partners." "Lucky me," Jace muttered. "I get front row seats to your alien moonlight parade." Her lips twitched just barely. "You will need proper attire. Come." She led him to a chamber he hadn't seen before, a room filled with tall mirrors and platforms lined with glowing fabric. Thin drones hovered like patient insects awaiting command. Jace whistled. You throw wardrobe parties for every full moon? Formality is survival in the Concordat, Saris replied. Those who forget that are soon erased. As she approached a console, light rippled across her fingertips. A narrow beam scanned him from head to toe, projecting measurements into the air. The drones began weaving threads of living cloth, fibers that shifted between dark blue and gray as they formed. He glanced toward a shelf at the back of the room and froze. There beside a crystal sculpture sat another relic from Earth, a small metal sphere marked with a faded insignia of the Terran fleet. You've got a museum hidden in your wardrobe, he said quietly. Saris turned her head just slightly. These are reminders, not trophies. Reminders of what? That mercy is dangerous, she said. Jace frowned but didn't push further. The drones descended, wrapping him in the tailored suit. The fabric was smooth, almost weightless, adjusting automatically to his movements. When he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. Saris studied him. Acceptable. Not exactly high praise, he muttered. If you embarrass me before the council, I will pretend not to know you. That's marriage, Jace said with a faint grin. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened for half a second before hardening again. Let us rehearse. Rehearse? The bond steps. You will perform them during the alignment. It is tradition. You mean dance, he said flatly. It is not dance, she insisted, tone clipped. It is synchronization of movement and energy. To perform it incorrectly would be an insult to the moons themselves. Right, he said, smirking. Wouldn't want to offend space rocks. Her glare could have sliced steel. Focus, human. The floor beneath them shimmered, forming glowing rings that pulsed in slow rhythm. Saris moved into the pattern with precision, each step smooth and deliberate. Jace followed, stumbling once, then twice before finding the rhythm. The light brightened as they synchronized. He felt something strange, an invisible thread linking their movements. Each time their hands brushed, static tingled across his skin. Her pulse matched his. For a moment, the world outside the pattern didn't exist. When they stopped, she was breathing a little faster. Adequate, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. What happens if we mess it up? He asked. People will talk, she said. Then softer. And I will lose more than reputation. What do you mean? Some already suspect our union is false. The ceremony will be proof. So this is about appearances. Her eyes met his. Everything in the Concordat is about appearances. He wanted to say more, but the moment broke as the house's chimes deepened. The sound of evening approaching. Night came fast on Thal 4. The 3 moons began to rise, each one casting a different hue, silver, copper, violet. The air itself seemed to shimmer with their combined light. At the city's heart, the Convergence Plaza bloomed like a living jewel. Thousands of Aurelians gathered in precise formation, their skin reflecting lunar light like molten glass. Jace felt every eye on him as he stepped beside Saris. They're staring, he whispered. They are evaluating, she replied. Do not look away. Drake Voss stood near the central dais, his expression sharp as a knife. General Kyle, he greeted coldly. And the human. The council will be fascinated. Saris didn't flinch, as they should be. They've never seen a bond tested under 3 moons. The music began, a low hum rising into something rhythmic, ancient. Saris turned to him, extending her hand. Now, she said quietly. Follow my lead. Jace took her hand. The air between them thickened, humming faintly. They moved into the light circle, step for step. The crowd fell silent. Each motion echoed with precision, the same pattern they practiced, but amplified now by the energy around them. The moons aligned fully, and a cascade of light rippled down, enveloping them both. Jace felt electricity crawl along his arms, then under his skin. Saris's eyes met his, no longer calm, but blazing. The connection deepened, the energy twisting between them like a living current. Every step, every breath synchronized. This is more than ritual, Jace whispered. It is a resonance field, she said, voice trembling slightly. It magnifies the bond between partners. And if there's no bond, it creates one. He could barely hear her through the hum building in his chest. The light wrapped them tighter, weaving through their skin. And in that moment, when his hand closed over hers, he saw faint markings bloom across both their arms, silvery trails that pulsed in rhythm with their hearts. When the final note faded, the light collapsed. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Saris held his gaze for a long moment, breathing unevenly. "What just happened?" Jace asked. "The moons have decided," she said softly. "Decided what?" "That our bond is real." As the crowd bowed and the ceremony ended, Jace felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes watching. He looked at his arm again, the glowing marks fading slowly into his skin. Whatever had happened out there wasn't just ritual. Something had changed. Something alive had begun between them. The morning after the lunar convergence began with a chill unlike any before. The walls of Saris Kale's home no longer pulsed with calm light. They flickered, restless, as if the entire structure felt unease. Jace Orion woke to find the silver marks on his forearm still faintly glowing, like veins of moonlight trapped under his skin. He traced them with his finger. They pulsed once, responding. "Still there," he muttered. "Great, now I'm half flashlight." "You should be proud," Sarah said from the doorway. She stood in full uniform again, every line sharp and deliberate, her composure back in place. But her voice carried something different beneath it. Something human. "The convergence accepted us. It doesn't happen often." Jace sat up. "And what does that mean exactly? That the universe ships us now?" She ignored the sarcasm. "It means the Concordat will take notice." Before he could reply, a sharp tone filled the room, a communication alert. Cirrus crossed to the wall console and pressed her palm to it. The projection that appeared showed a man Jace recognized instantly. Administrator Drake Voss. His expression carried triumph. "General Kale," he said smoothly, "your presence is required at the High Council chamber immediately. Bring your bondmate." Jace frowned. That didn't sound like a request. "It isn't," Sarah said. She deactivated the link and turned away, jaw tight. "He's been waiting for this. For what?" "For me to make a mistake," she replied. "Or to invent one if I don't." The council chamber stood like a cathedral of glass and stone, its ceiling open to the endless sky. As they entered, every eye turned. The officials from the tribunal were there again, seated in a semicircle above them. At the center stood Voss, wearing the expression of a predator who had finally cornered its prey. "General Kale," he began, "you arrive with your human partner. Appropriate, since he is the reason for this meeting." Jace stiffened but said nothing. Sarah stood beside him, head high. Voss activated a series of hollow projections, footage of their ceremony, slow motion of the convergence light wrapping around them. Then a scan, twin energy signatures, one Aurelian, one human, intertwined like threads of silver. "This," Voss said, voice smooth as oil, "is contamination. The bond has fused your biofields. You are no longer purely Aurelian, General. Your judgment is compromised." Saris's jaw tightened. "You call it contamination?" "I call it connection," Voss smirked. But the Concordat values purity, not poetry." The lead counselor, an elder with skin like frosted glass, raised a hand. "Administrator, your claim is severe. Do you have proof that the General's actions endanger the Concordat?" "Indeed," Voss said. The next hologram flickered on. Images of Saris's private collection, the human relics, the chronometer, the compass. These artifacts were recovered from her estate this morning. Evidence of long-term contact with humans, decades of disloyalty. The chamber buzzed with low murmurs. Saris did not speak. Jace saw the faint tremor in her hand where it rested behind her back. "Furthermore," Voss continued, "records indicate that she once aided a Terran officer named Elias Orion. She concealed his presence. She violated interspecies law." His gaze slid toward Jace. "It seems treachery runs in families. That did it." Jace stepped forward before Saris could stop him. "You want proof she's dangerous? Fine, look at me. She could have let me die. She didn't. She could have enslaved me. She didn't. She saved my life, and now you want to punish her for being decent?" The counselors exchanged glances, some intrigued, others disapproving. Voss chuckled. "You mistake strategy for mercy, human. The General has always used sentiment to disguise her defiance. The convergence only proves it. That bond you wear is a weapon against us all." Jace looked down at the glowing marks, then back up. "You're wrong. It's proof that your perfect walls are cracking, and maybe that's the best thing that could happen to you." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Saris's eyes flicked toward him, half warning, half admiration. The elder counselor leaned forward. "The human speaks boldly. What do you propose, General Kale?" Saris's voice came calm but carried steel. "A test. Let us prove whether our bond weakens or strengthens the Concordat." A tactical simulation. Voss commands one team, I command the other. My human and I will fight using this. Contamination. The counselor's eyes glittered. Interesting. Administrator, do you object? Voss smiled, teeth sharp. Of course not. I never refuse a demonstration of failure. Minutes later, the world dissolved into light. The simulation chamber unfolded around them. A vast dome filled with stars, projections of fleets, weapon systems, and the cold silence of deep space. Sarah stood at the command interface, her uniform reconfiguring into tactical armor. Jace's heart raced as neural lines connected to his temples, merging him into the battlefield's illusion. Voss's voice echoed across the void. Try not to embarrass yourself, General. The Council is watching. Don't worry, Jace said. We're good under pressure. The countdown began. Then stars turned into war. Enemy ships, hundreds, materialized at the edge of the field, surrounding their smaller fleet. Saris began issuing orders in sharp Aurelian command tones. Her strategy was perfect but predictable. They'll flank left, Jace said quickly. That's what I'd do if I wanted to look smart. She hesitated only a moment before adjusting formation. Then where would you strike? Everywhere they're not looking, he said. Let them think they've trapped us. He triggered decoy bursts, deploying empty drones shaped like ships. The enemy fired, wasting volleys on phantoms. Saris turned to him, surprise in her eyes. Effective human instinct, he said. We fight best when we shouldn't win. Voss's holographic fleet shifted tactics, pressing harder. But Jace and Saris had already begun something new, unspoken coordination. Their movements synced without words, minds linking through the faint hum of the bond. He felt her thoughts, not as words, but impressions. Direction, intent, precision. She felt his improvisation, his chaos. Together they moved as one. Explosions rippled through the simulated void. The Council murmured above, watching two minds weave order out of defiance. Then Voss overplayed his hand, rerouting the system's parameters to make his fleet invincible. Jace noticed instantly. He's cheating, he muttered. I know, Saris said quietly. Then let's show them why humans are unpredictable. Jace grinned. Now you're learning. He activated a cascade of false telemetry, tricking the simulation into collapsing Voss's energy grid. The opposing fleet blinked out like dying stars. Silence filled the chamber. Then the Council's projection reappeared, their expressions unreadable. Results? The Elder asked. The human general pair achieved victory against impossible odds, the technician reported, and uncovered Administrator Voss's unauthorized alterations to the simulation. The chamber erupted in gasps. Voss's composure shattered. Lies! Enough, said the Elder. Administrator Voss, you are relieved of duty pending investigation. Guards moved in. Voss's glare burned into Jace and Saris as they led him away. When silence returned, the Elder turned to Saris. Your bond has demonstrated potential. Perhaps the Concordat has underestimated the value of imperfection. Saris bowed slightly. Imperfection, she said, is the birthplace of innovation. As they left the chamber, Jace looked at her and smiled faintly. So, still think I'm contamination? Saris met his eyes. For once, there was no distance in them. No, she said softly. I think you're evolution. And for the first time. The General of Thal 4 smiled, not like a commander, but like someone who had just remembered how. The simulation chamber dissolved into light, and suddenly there was quiet, too quiet. Jace Orion blinked against the brightness as reality rebuilt itself around him. Glass walls, silver light, the faint hum of Aurelian tech cooling down after battle. Across the room, Saris Kyle stood still in the fading glow of the neural interface, her armor cracked with fine lines of blue light, the mark of victory. The Council's voices murmured behind the soundproof veil above them. They were arguing, Jace could tell from the flashes of motion. But one thing was certain, they had seen something no algorithm could explain. Saris turned to him slowly. You shouldn't have done that. Done what? Jace said, pulling the neural leads from his temples. When? You improvised mid-command protocol, she said. You disobeyed my order. He shrugged, smiling faintly. Yeah, and that's why we're still standing. For a heartbeat, he thought she would reprimand him. But then her shoulders relaxed and something close to a laugh slipped past her lips. A soft, stunned sound that carried more meaning than words. You truly are impossible, she said. That's practically a compliment, he replied. Before she could respond, the doors to the chamber opened. The elder counselor entered, flanked by attendants carrying glowing tablets. General Kale, Human Orion, step forward. They obeyed. Your display today has forced us to reconsider long-standing assumptions, the elder said. For decades, we believed human unpredictability was a liability, but you have demonstrated that it can also be a strength. Jace folded his arms. You're welcome, the elder ignored the tone. The Concordat High Council has convened. Administrator Voss is under arrest for protocol manipulation. His position will remain vacant until further decision. Ceres's expression didn't change, but Jace saw the smallest flicker of satisfaction. Furthermore, the elder continued, the bond formed between you two represents a phenomenon not yet understood. A link between species that transcends biology. We believe it should be studied. Jace raised an eyebrow. Studied as in dissected? Ceres stepped in before he could say more. With respect, counselor, what you witnessed is not an anomaly to be dissected. It's an alliance. A bridge. A bridge, the elder repeated thoughtfully. Then you propose what? Ceres straightened. A mission to Earth. A formal envoy to establish diplomatic contact. Let the Concordat and the Terran Assembly decide together what this bond means for our future. A ripple moved through the council. Whispers, doubt, awe. Finally, the elder nodded. The proposal will be reviewed. Until then, you are both free to return to your estate under official protection. Translation, Jace muttered as they exited. We're under surveillance now. As we always were, Ceres replied. But now they'll listen differently. The journey back to the highlands was silent. Outside the transport's viewport, the twin moons glowed pale against the thin atmosphere. Below them, the metallic forest shimmered like living silver veins. Jace finally spoke. They'll never let us go to Earth. They might, Ceres said, if they fear what happens when they don't. He looked at her. You just turned politics into strategy. That is politics, she said. They shared a quiet laugh that faded into the hum of the engines. When they arrived, the house felt different, alive in a new way. The walls glowed brighter, reacting to the residual bond energy between them. Jace swore he could feel the structure's pulse aligning faintly with his own heartbeat. Your house likes me now, he said. It adjusts to the dominant frequency, Ceres said, studying the walls. Apparently that's yours. Dominant, he said with a grin. I like the sound of that. She rolled her eyes but didn't argue. Later, in the quiet of the main hall, she poured 2 glasses of the same dark blue liquid he had once called liquid cold. Now it tasted warm, sweeter somehow. To survival, she said. Jace clinked his glass against hers. 2 accidents that turn out better than plans. For a while they sat in comfortable silence. But beneath it something unspoken lingered, a current neither of them could ignore. Finally Jace spoke. When we fought Voss, I felt what you were thinking. Not words, just direction, focus. It wasn't me reading you, it was us syncing. That's not normal, is it? No, Ceres admitted. The convergence bond usually creates resonance, not cognition. Whatever this is, it shouldn't be possible. He leaned back. So we're rewriting biology now. Great. Or destiny, she said quietly. He looked at her then, really looked, past the uniform, past the authority. You're serious? I am many things, she said. Serious is the safest one to admit, he smiled. Then what's the unsafe one? Her gaze met his, steady and unreadable. Hope. That night Jace couldn't sleep. The silvery trees outside whispered in the alien wind, and the glow from his markings pulsed faintly with each breath. He walked through the quiet halls until he found himself in Ceres's study. The chronometer his grandfather had given her still rested on the shelf. He picked it up, flipping it open. Inside, the second hand ticked with impossible precision. There was an inscription he hadn't noticed before, etched faintly into the underside of the lid. To understand another world, you must let it change yours. He stared at the words for a long moment. Then he heard her voice behind him. He said that to me, Ceres said softly. The day he left. I never understood it until now. She stepped beside him, the moonlight casting silver patterns across her face. Your grandfather believed humanity could teach us more than we could teach you. I thought he was wrong. And now? Jace asked. Now, she said, I think he underestimated you. For a moment, the air between them was fragile, filled with all the things they hadn't said. Then slowly she reached out and pressed her palm to his. Their bond lines glowed faintly, merging for a heartbeat. No words. Just connection. Outside, the 3 moons of Thal 4 began to drift apart in the sky, their perfect alignment fading. But Jace Orion didn't look up. He only saw the reflection of their light in her eyes, and the unspoken promise that their story wasn't ending here. Because for the first time since he'd arrived on this world, he wasn't surviving. He was becoming something new. The next morning, Thal 4 was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. The silver forest didn't hum. The wind held its breath. Even the sky seemed to wait. Jace Orion woke to the sound of silence so heavy it pressed on his ears. For the first time, he noticed. There were no distant patrol drones, no Concordat broadcasts whispering through the comm channels. The world itself was listening. He found Saris Kyle already in the observatory, a circular chamber of transparent glass, its ceiling open to the copper dawn. She stood before a floating console, pale light flickering over her face. Her expression was focused, but beneath that precision, Jay saw something else. Unease. "You're up early," he said, stepping beside her. "I didn't sleep," she replied. The council's transmission came during the night. Jace's chest tightened. "They rejected the Earth mission, didn't they?" "No," she said slowly. "They approved it, but not for the reasons I hoped," he frowned. "Meaning? The council believes if humanity's unpredictability spreads, it must be studied at its source. They're sending us to Earth, yes, but under full surveillance. Every conversation, every gesture, every thought they can monitor." Jace gave a short laugh. "So, a diplomatic visit with invisible chains, classic." She turned to him. "You don't understand. The Concordat never sends emissaries to learn. They send them to measure threats. We will not be guests, Jace. We will be scouts for their next war." That word hit him like ice. War? Some among the council believe humanity's adaptability is dangerous. They fear your chaos more than they fear your weapons. He leaned on the console, jaw tight. Then why agree to the mission at all? "Because if they control it, they can control the narrative," she said bitterly. "If the emissary smiles, the Empire sleeps easier." Jace stared out at the dawn. "Then maybe it's time someone woke it up." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the console chirped, a soft tone, rhythmic and unfamiliar. Cirrus frowned. "That's not a council frequency." The display shifted, showing a stream of encrypted data descending from orbit, an old signal, nearly erased by time. She began decoding it. Lines of static text formed, then a voice, faint, distorted, but human. "If anyone receives this is Elias Orion. Thal system compromised. Not by Concordat, by third presence. Repeat, third presence. They used our conflict. Played both sides. Beware. Signal buried deep in relay network. Don't trust." The message cut off. Jace's blood ran cold. "That's my grandfather's voice." Saris didn't speak at first. Her eyes were locked on the console, every muscle rigid. "I thought this transmission was destroyed. I searched the archives myself. The council erased it from records decades ago. Why? Because it meant the war between our species wasn't just ours." She turned toward him. "Someone else wanted it to happen. Someone powerful enough to manipulate both Earth and the Concordat without being seen." The room seemed to shrink. Jace felt the world tilt beneath him. "So everything, my grandfather's crash, the Orion conflict, your orders, none of it was what we thought." "No," she said quietly. "We were both pawns." He slammed his hand against the console. "Then we find who moved the pieces." Saris looked up at him, and in that moment he saw the soldier fade and the strategist rise. "You realize what that means? We won't just be defying the council or the Concordat. We'll be defying whoever built the game." He gave a humorless grin. "Then let's break the board." That night they stood on the balcony overlooking the valley. The moons had separated completely now, their alignment broken. Below, the forest glowed faintly, like veins under skin. Cirrus spoke softly. "When I first saw you, I thought you were reckless. A desperate human clinging to survival. But now I think you're something else entirely." "What's that?" "Proof that chaos can create balance." He turned toward her. "And you were the perfect order that needed a little chaos." She smiled, rare and genuine. "Perhaps." They stood in silence, the faint hum of the chronometer between them. Its ticking had become a heartbeat in the still air. So, Jace said after a while, what happens when we reach Earth? We uncover what was hidden, she said. Your grandfather left a trail. That signal wasn't random, it was a key. And if the council erased it, that means they're afraid of what it opens. Jace nodded slowly. Then we open it. He reached for her hand. The silver bond lines along their arms glowed again, brighter than before, weaving light between their skin. Whatever comes, he said quietly, we face it together. Together, she echoed for a moment. Everything was still, the stars, the wind, the pulse of the house beneath them. Then far across the horizon, a flicker of movement lit the sky, a silent burst of red light, too distant to hear, too deliberate to ignore. Sarah stiffened. That's not natural. It's a transmission marker, Jace said, narrowing his eyes. Someone's answering the signal. The red light blinked twice, then vanished. They stood there side by side, the realization settling over them like a storm about to break. The game wasn't over. It was just starting again. Sirius turned toward him. The council won't tell us the truth, and Earth might not remember it. But if your grandfather was right, then there's something else out there, Jace finished, voice low. Something that wanted us to destroy each other. She nodded once. And now it knows we're alive. The wind picked up, carrying a sound like distant static, a whisper from the stars. Jace looked up, eyes hard, the silver marks on his arm glowing faintly beneath his sleeve. Let it come, he said. This time humanity isn't alone. As the light of the moons washed over them, two figures stood against the horizon, one human, one Aurelian, united by choice, bound by war, and watched by something vast and unseen. And somewhere deep in the darkness between stars, something answered their signal. The story wasn't over. It had just changed sides.